Hey everybody, welcome to the Pressbooks Product Update webinar for February. I'm Steel Wagstaff, filling in for Julie Curtis, who's out today. I want to just give a high-level overview of what's on the agenda today. We're going to start by sharing some new features and updates about Pressbooks Results. We're going to talk about a new user terms of service plugin and whether it might be right for you. We'll talk about a new feature that lets you filter by deactivated books in the book list if you're a network manager. We'll give a preview of some stuff that's coming soon with both improvements for math and MathJax. I'm glad you're here, Jonathan, and an updated VPAT, and then a preview of some upcoming events for both Open Ed Week and a big revamp or overhaul of the end user webinars that we offer. And we'll try to end with a community roundtable. Hopefully there'll be time. I'll jump right into the new features and updates. The first high-level thing we want to talk about is Pressbooks Results. And you've probably all heard us talk about this, but if it's new to you, we have a short introduction video that you can watch to learn about what Pressbooks is and how it works. But essentially, it's a way that if you have built in interactive quizzes into your book with H5P, you can connect those books to a course in your learning management system. And student performance on those activities will be sent automatically to the gradebook. And you can also view more details about how they've done in individual activities. And Michelle will preview some improvements we've made there. Essentially, the goal for this is to increase student motivation to engage with learning materials. It gives instructors and students visibility into who's doing the reading and how well they understand key concepts. And it can really inform interventions that you might want to make. If you're an instructor and you notice many people in the class are struggling with this assessment or this practice activity, then you can address it in your next lecture. So we hope that it improves teaching and learning. And the idea is it's generally available to all of our enterprise clients now. And this term so far, we see usage from 24 institutions, over 60 instructors, around 120 courses are using it with about 3,400 students and all 4 of the major LMSs. And it's been going fairly well. Along with making Pressbooks Results kind of a key feature, we have been doing a number of things to improve the product based on feedback from users in the pilot and in the past. And I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Michelle, who'll talk to you about some of the improvements they've been making.
Yes, thanks, Teal. So one of the big changes that we've been working on is being able to give instructors basically the ability to view student responses from the H5P activities that they do complete. And so we have been working steadily on this. At the moment, we have visualizations ready for the essay and fill in the blank type, and we have just released the multiple choice and drag the words activities, so that would have come out this week. We still have in progress visualizations for the true, false, and drag and drop that are also right around the corner. I will talk a little bit about research, but first I'm going to do a little preview of what those responses look like. And so right now, if you go into the activity viewer, you'll notice that now you can hover and click on some of the activity types that are supported. And so for our essay type activities, you'll see the text that gets submitted. Users have done more than one attempt. You would also be able to see that and click through. And if you are looking for the original H5P activity to give a bit more context, you can also see that in this viewer as well. And so that's the way that it is formatted for all of the activities that you do see here. So you can see the fill in the blank activities, also show you what students have correctly answered, what they have incorrectly answered, and then what the correct answer was that was shown. These are some previews of the things that are coming, but we've got drag the words as well, where you can also flip between the different responses there. We also got the multiple choice. And also preview of the true false questions here. So this has been something we've been working on and looking forward to be providing this, as this was a very requested feature for a long time. So we've got basically 2 kinds of research that we are running for a little while here. We've got feedback opportunities. We've got bi-weekly product discovery sessions. So every 2 weeks, we are running a product discovery session where we are going to ask for user input on the work we're doing in the moment. So this week, we had a really great discussion about improvements on the LTI and results usage table. And of course, in these sessions, both instructors and network managers are welcome to join, and we will tailor each session just depending on who is attending. put a registration link in the chat. So if you want to, you can always register for those events and then, of course, drop into ones that you're available for. And that is available there. The other thing that we're doing is we're also conducting one-on-one user research interviews to get even more in-depth feedback to inform our design choices. So at the moment, we have topics for both instructors and network managers, basically around visualizing the student data that I had just shown, around the usability of configuring Pressbooks results in the LMS. And then we're also looking at improving the LTI and Pressbooks results usage table. And of course, if there are other things that come up, I'm also happy to do some general research on that as well. And for that, I will also put the Calendly link for scheduling those sessions in the chat if anyone wants to register for a one-on-one session. We also offer a $25 thank you for participating in those one-on-one sessions. It's really great for people to be able to come out and for us to be able to improve the product based on what you need. And that is basically it. If you ever have questions about this, feel free to shoot me a message.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Any questions for Michelle about user research and how you could participate if you're interested?
I just wondered, I wanted to clarify the research interviews, are those primarily targeted for students using the product or faculty teaching with it? Like,
I'm going to try to repeat the question. The question I think was the user research interviews, were those primarily for students using the product or for teachers who are building activities and designing things? Is that what you asked?
Yes.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yes, at the moment, for instructors and network managers primarily, if there are requests for student interviews, we will definitely send that out. We did do that in December, and it was really great to hear directly from students. If we have questions for students, yeah, I'll definitely post and let people know. I send out an email every other week just informing about the biweekly product discovery session, and I would include that information in there. So
I just want to put a plug in and say, Michelle's awesome and really great to talk to, good listener. We really, the product is made better when we hear from people who are using it. So please be involved with us in co-designing and take Michelle up on this offer to get the things you want heard and improved. Just the reminder that we wanted to share is if you haven't done it or you're curious about it, we want to encourage everybody who's an enterprise client at least to configure LTI at a minimum for their institution. Why would you do this? Well, one, it allows students to directly access Pressbooks content in the LMS, both public content and private content that you're maybe not ready to publish to the world. You can still use it in a course and students can access it directly. It handles the account creation and the permission management for you, so that if you have a link in your course, a student clicks it, they can always read it and they're always provisioned with the necessary access without you having to manage their user account or make sure that they have user permissions. And if you're interested in using Pressbooks results, the real benefit there is you can see grades and you can see student performance like Michelle was showing on those embedded H5P activities. It's now included for all of our enterprise clients as part of the offering that we have. We have around 220 LTI platforms that are connected for around 100 of our client networks. If you're not one of them, we'd love to help you configure it if you haven't done so. There are instructions here. If you've never used it, it's a pretty straightforward process using dynamic registration. We have some instructions and our support team is happy to help, or any of your account managers can guide you. And then if you have already set up an LTI connection, but you don't know about deep linking or you've never used Pressbooks results, there might be one small step your network manager or your LMS admin has to take. So there are simple instructions for that, or you can contact us and we can walk you through it. If you do option 1, it will take you 3 to 5 minutes. If you do option 2, it'll take you 1 minute, or an LMS admin 1 minute. Approval and deciding you want to do it is usually the hardest decision here. Once you've configured LTI, we're happy to activate Pressbooks results on your network for you at any time. Some of you we've already contacted about that, or you contacted us. If you have any questions, you can always email premium support or talk to any of us that you have a relationship with. Okay, great. So the next thing I want to talk about is user terms of service. So framing the problem, there was the problem that we encountered is that when we sign a enterprise hosting agreement with the institution, The service agreement that the institution signed requires the institution to take responsibility for the behavior of the users as they use the platform. And whenever a user creates an account on Pressbooks, on your network or on any network, they are implicitly accepting those platforms' terms of service. That's part of the deal of creating an account. Now, some institutions say we would like to make sure that instead of implicit consent, those users have read and given explicit consent to the platform terms of service before we let them create or publish content. There's a variety of reasons that you might want to do this. Maybe your lawyer has told you you need to, or maybe you feel more comfortable that way, or maybe you've had problems in the past where a scammer or spammer or somebody got on and used your Pressbooks network to do something you didn't want them to do. And if it was messy and you felt like, oh, I wish I would have just had them accept terms of service up front. If that's the case, we now have a new plugin that's available to all of our enterprise clients. When it's activated, all users, whether you're a creator or an editor or whatever role you have, you're required to explicitly read and accept those Pressbooks terms of service before you can create or edit content. It's relatively simple. It's a pretty simple design, and I've got a sample account here where this is a network that's existed for a long time. I may have had an account for 3 years and I've been editing, publishing books, but as soon as this gets plugged in, the next time that I log in, I'm going to log in here, and this is what I'll see. Logging in, I'll see my normal dashboard here, but I'm going to see this terms of service page appear. And I will see a legal document written by a lawyer with accurate terms of service that describe what I'm agreeing to. You'll see the name of the lawyer and the date that it was last revised here, or date when it was last modified. If I want to try to go to my dashboard, it will say, we'll redirect you to the terms of service. If I try to create a book, it will redirect me to the terms of service. If I try to do anything, it will redirect me to the terms of service until I say, I have read and accept them. If I say cancel, I don't want to, that's fine. We will simply log you out. And then you can't make edits or access the admin panel of your network until you choose to accept the terms of service. Once a user does accept the terms of service, so here I'll do that. This time, imagine that I have read this. Many of users, many of us get presented with terms of service all the time and not everybody reads them carefully. But let's say I've read it carefully and I say I accept it. Pressbooks will keep track of this user's acceptance of the terms of service. It will not ask this person again unless or until those terms of service change, and then it will reprompt them to accept the new terms of service. So that's how the plugin works and what it does. The question then is this right for me? Do I want to use this? So the kind of heuristic rubric that we developed is it important for you or your institution that end users explicitly accept a terms of service statement? If so, ask us to activate the new term of service plugin and we'll do it. I'll have a note here and I'll talk about this a little bit. There was a previous solution that some networks were using, which had a terms of service requirement, but that was only attached to user self-registration. If you're using that, this solution is, I think, much better and should replace that and will help you migrate from the old way of doing things to the new way of doing things. If it isn't important to explicitly accept terms of service, what you're doing is working for you and implicit acceptance of them is fine, then you don't need to do anything. Just proceed as you are. If you're not sure, if it does come up and you want to do it, just consider using the new plugin and ask us to activate it. It's really that simple. The old approach is basically it only applies when a network allows open self-registration. That means you have to allow anybody to register for an account on your network. That's kind of risky and it can attract spammers. You can set up safeguards and try to protect yourself from it. But man, I really don't recommend open self-registration if you can avoid it. The old approach only would apply when a user created an account via self-registration. If they created an account via single sign-on, or if they did it via LTI, or if you manually created the user, they wouldn't be presented with that terms of service and required to accept it in the old way. And it also required the network to create and maintain their own terms of service page. So I was looking at current usage, and there are a handful of clients that require users to accept the terms of service, but they didn't create a terms of service page, or they are not linking to one. So it says, do you accept these terms of service? And then the link goes nowhere, or a link goes to a page that's not actually a term of service page. So there is the possibility for user error, and some people were doing it wrong. The new plugin, the benefits are, It does not require user self-registration. In fact, you can and probably should turn user self-registration off, especially if you're using this. It will apply to all users, no matter how or when the account was created. Even people that had their accounts created 5 years ago or whatever, once this gets turned on, they will be presented with the terms of service and retroactively asked, or not retroactive, but asked to accept them. It will check for compliance, as you saw, before the user takes their next action. And it will keep track of whether or not they've accepted the terms of service and will reprompt them anytime the terms of service are changed. It uses our standard Pressbooks terms of service that everybody agrees to as part of the contract. And if you want to present it or read it in advance or share it with your university council, there is a link here and I will put it in the chat. It's if someone can click that URL and confirm that you're able to open it, that would be grand. Okay, great. So that's what I wanted to share about the terms of service plugin. Okay, next step, how do you activate it? Email us, email Premium Support or your account manager, or tell us in this meeting in the chat or whatever, and then we will activate the plugin for you upon request. If you are using the old approach, I'm proactively reaching out to several of you to say, hey, let's help you with this. Or if you want extra help and advice, please just let us know. Does anyone have questions for me or for our team about the terms of service plugin, how it works, what it does, why you might want to use it?
Still, there was a question in the chat
Great.
from Edda saying, is it possible for a network to append or add additional terms of service to reflect their local policies?
That's a good question. I think it's theoretically possible. It would need to have review from both your lawyers and our lawyers, and the person that I would refer that question to is Christopher, who fortunately is on the call. So Christopher, what do we say?
So yes, the answer is yes, but this requires approval from our lawyer as well. So you would probably want to have your legal team write something up. Our lawyer would say yay or nay, there would be a negotiation, and then we would have a specific terms of service for your network that we would configure for your network.
Any other questions? Lauren, go ahead.
Yeah, I had asked a similar question to Etta last time because we have our own user guidelines that we created for our University of Washington Library's Pressbooks account. And so we have our user policies and guidelines, and then we also have our own terms of service. And we kind of created a workaround because we have single sign-on to have people register for an account on our site, even though they technically don't have to register. They can just sign in because we want them to read over those terms of service and also give us a little more information about why they're there and what they're doing for us to kind of collect, or what needs they have for support.
Yeah.
So I guess this is just putting in a like, it could be nice to have something at some point where something like that, something that isn't necessarily customized terms of service, but that is sort of like, we want you to read this information before you get started with Pressbooks. Like a customized page or something could appear when someone clicks through the site. And maybe there's a way of doing that right now, but it just makes me think about this with the terms of service question.
And let me make sure I'm hearing what you're describing, Lauren. You're saying, okay, once a user has signed up or is new to your network, you want to give them like a welcome message that kind of informs them about, here's the norms, here's how we do things here, and or request some information from them at the beginning of their.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it something where you want to also record like, yes, I consent, or yes, I agree, or is it informational with your desire?
Currently, we would like to have them consent that they've read our guidelines.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I'm guessing that we'll probably want to do some like further conversation to understand the need. And
okay.
I think Michelle and others on this call maybe reach out to you, Lauren, after that. Thank you. The next thing we want to talk about is also a feature improvement. So in the Network Manager dashboard, you have the ability to view a book list. And one of the things that happens is people are reviewing their book list periodically. And if an author has chosen to delete their book, network managers know probably that the book is not actually hard deleted. It's actually deactivated. And it's held for review so that a network manager can ultimately decide, we don't want to delete that. We want to restore it, or here's our plan for that content. Network managers and institutional managers want to review those deactivated books periodically and say, what's been deactivated? Do I want to revive it, or do I want to hard delete it? And so one of the things we did, we just added a new filter option on the Network Manager dashboard that lets you filter and see deactivated books only. So if you've been to the book list, you'll see there's all these different filter options, public, private, etc. There's now a new filter here that says is deactivated. And when it's filtered, you'll see down below, here are the 5 deactivated books on my network, and I can more quickly find and review them. This got to be a problem if you had hundreds of books and a bunch of deactivated ones scattered throughout it. It wasn't very easy to identify just the ones that were deactivated. And so this will allow you to do that now. It's pretty simple and straightforward, but hopefully you find it useful. Any questions about that or how you'd use it as a network manager? Would that explain a blank under owner? I'm not sure I understand what that question means. I'm sorry. And then Amy says, thank you. You're welcome, Amy.
The other day I logged in and there are 2 newish books in our network that don't have anybody listed as an owner. And I've never seen that before. And so I thought maybe that it's a new, I ended up finding out that it's a brand new user who's kind of experimenting. And so I'm wondering if maybe he had put some content in and then or started a new book and then deleted it. And that's why I'm not seeing him under new book.
That's totally possible.
Okay.
So it may be a project where the author decided to remove themselves from it or delete it. And so it's an abandoned book that's being held for your review before you deletion. That's my guess, but we could stay after and look at it specifically if you had a further question. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. Any other questions? All right, now we're going to move on to the not quite here, but coming soon to get you excited about what's coming next. The first thing we want to talk about, it's a long time coming, and my colleague Oz is our kind of in-house expert on this. But if you have been writing using LaTeX or mathematical or scientific notation, you'll know that Pressbooks is slightly idiosyncratic in how it does things. We usually require you to enter what's called a short code and write LaTeX, and it doesn't always support all of the delimiters, the characters that you use to say what's coming next is math, render it like math. So people who write with LaTeX have a set of delimiters or symbols that they use to say this is math, and they're used to using those. And in Pressbooks, not all of those work. So we want to make it easier for authors to include math or scientific notation using the syntax that they're used to, just the standard LaTeX delimiters. We also want to make sure that we can support more types of expressions or more types of symbols. In LaTeX, sometimes these are called custom packages, which add a new range of symbols that aren't part of the standard configuration. And the big key thing is that we want to make sure that when you write with these expressions, that the output is accessible on the web. If you're in the web book on the browser, it's accessible. And that when you produce exports, whether it's an EPUB or a PDF export, that the same math expressions are rendered in the same way, even when those tools don't support the JavaScript that the web browser is using to show the expressions. So that's the kind of challenge and what we're looking at doing. And the exciting thing is we have some really exciting progress we've made where Oz has updated our solution to use a newer version of MathJax and added support for a whole bunch of LaTeX delimiters and several new LaTeX packages. It's not ready for release yet. We still would like to do testing, and we would love if you have heavy-duty math users or people who are using the Quick LaTeX plugin. We'd love to hear from them so we can make sure we're covering their use case and understanding what they're trying to do. I know Jonathan has been very helpful in the past. We'll probably tap you again, Jonathan, and others like him. So I'll jump into the show and tell and just show you kind of, here's an example of what we've got going on. And excuse this is a demo, work in progress. This is a book that Oz and I have been playing around with. So for example, I will open up this sample chapter here, and this is what the web book looks like. And so you can see now we've got a whole bunch of math expressions being displayed inline and on their own line. You can see things in this chapter that look like chemistry as well, and probably some physics later on. The next chapter, we're using a whole range of delimiters here. And let me show you underneath the hood. The settings page will now show all the different delimiters. And if you don't understand what this means, that's okay. Not all of us did at the beginning too, but if you do, you'll be excited to see that we're supporting the standard inline delimiter. We're supporting the standard block delimiter. If you're using the old shortcode method or the $ LaTeX method, those are all now supported in this demo version. And we're working on a couple of others and kind of cleaning this up. So this chapter underneath the hood had a bunch of test expressions using all those different kinds of delimiters. And the exciting thing is they all look like math in the browser. So this is accessible math in the browser, and you can use all of the MathJax accessibility features in the browser when you're accessing these math expressions. So there's a whole bunch of different types of things. There's text macros, there's auto bolding, there's color, there's bbox, there's the general symbols. These are packages that people who care about specialized math or science want, and we're showing examples of them in this book. The other fun thing I'll demo here, and Oz knows a lot about this as well, is this is a sample of the PDF preview. And so all of these expressions and symbols are showing up here in my preview, including some pretty gnarly ones that probably wouldn't have been supported before. And it's both inline and block math. So really cool progress on that. I think we're all excited, and hopefully you and your authors are excited. And feedback from folks that are using math is kind of the stage that we're at. We really would love some testers and some people to help us break this so that we understand it better, and then it doesn't break in production. Any questions or feedback about the math stuff? Yes, Jamie, that'd be great. I mean, really what we want to understand is, how do you use math, or how do you intend to use math, and how do we make sure that the platform makes it as easy as possible for you to do what you're used to doing and have it work across the formats that Pressbooks supports. Okay, Jonathan asked a technical question, which is, what are the new packages you're heading towards supporting? I think there's a list of maybe there you go.
Yes.
Oz is
Those
just
are the default.
okay.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I just pasted in the chat that those are like the default packages that we are including by default. So we are also looking to find a way, on sustainable way, to add like any package that can be added through required. So yeah, but those are the basics that we are including by default.
All right. Oh, Jonathan, did that answer the question that you had in terms of like, that's going to be the default configuration? Oz is saying we're trying to provide users with an input method to add support for other packages, maybe requires it if they're not standard, or they could request that they become standard, and we could consider that as well. Jonathan asked, any hope to turn on the MathJax macro feature? And I don't know the answer to that right now. I don't think that's in the scope of what we're testing in this moment. We probably need to understand it a little bit more. So maybe that's an invitation to join one of our interviews and tell us how you use the MathJax macro feature and how we might support it.
Yeah, that will be very helpful. Did you mean to being able to extend like macros, like dynamically, to add more macros, like custom macros into the equations?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
So new command is one
Yeah.
of the supported packages that we're planning to add support for. So I think the answer would be
Probably
I don't
yes.
know. The answer is I don't know.
Yes, but definitely we need to talk about that more. But yeah, I think we want to make this like more extensible.
Thanks, Jonathan, and hopefully we'll circle back to understand your need better. Great. Yes, agreed. Other questions about what's coming soon with math, or things that you want us to consider? I guess the invitation is, if you have math folks that are interested in this, or that are using the WP Quick LaTeX, which we understand is not as great, let us know, and we'd like to help them so that we can include the features they need in the core and get them off of something that doesn't work as well. All right, another exciting thing that I think many of you will be interested in, this is often mentioned for procurement purposes, but in the world of accessibility and ed tech, there's something called a VPAT, a voluntary product accessibility template. And it's, or vendor maybe, or I don't know what V stands for, but essentially software vendors fill out a pre-built form that says, how well does your software do on these WCAG guidelines for accessibility? So WCAG is a web standards body, and they maintain a set of guidelines that say, if you're publishing content to the web, these are the expectations that the content must meet, or the tool must meet, to be considered to meet these guidelines for accessibility. I don't need to get into the huge, hairy details of what WCAG is and what VPAT are, but essentially this is a document that we publish that tells you how accessible is our software? Where is it doing well? What are the areas that it's struggling or needs improvement? We publish these every couple of years. The most recent ones were done a little while ago, and so we hired a third party to produce a new audit for us. And in this round, we're covering 3 aspects of the platform. The authoring platform, which is what regular users see when they log in and create stuff. We already had a VPAT for that. We're going to make a new updated one. The reading platform, which is what a person encounters when they just visit a public book. You don't need an account, but what do you see when you're reading Pressbooks? That is also, we have a VPAT for, we'll be updating that. And we will be producing a new one, which is the admin interface for network managers. So there's a bunch of pages and menus and things that network managers, institutional managers see that regular users don't. We never did a full systematic VPAT for that in the past, and we're planning to in the future. So we have the preliminary reports from the accessibility audit team, and they gave us detailed notes. So far, the reports look pretty good, and the reading platform especially, I think, is like ready to publish because it's great. But we're also looking through those and seeing what are the issues that we need to prioritize and fix that we want to improve on. So we will be publishing updated reports and expect to publish the new VPATs sometime in the spring. And I don't have a firm date on that, but I think that's coming. Julie might know more about that, but isn't here today. So that's what's happening with accessibility and the VPAT in the Pressbooks land. Any questions for us about accessibility or what's happening with VPATs? Oh, Michelle's got a link here too. And Michelle's quite a knowledgeable person on the accessibility front as well. All right, so I'll move on and then say events. We're running a little tight on time and I want to leave time for you, but coming soon, Open Education Week, first week of March. We have 3 events that we're really excited to be participating in or hosting. The first is a webinar that John and I will be doing on Monday the 3rd. It's called Creating Engaging and Interactive Learning Experiences with Pressbooks and H5P. It'll be kind of like a small scale demo of Pressbooks Results and how it works and what it's using. So it might be a nice introduction for topic if people are curious about that. The second webinar is on Wednesday. I'll be participating in this one. We're co-hosting this one with OE Global. It's called OER Under the Hood. It's the first in a series, and we're going to be looking specifically at student portfolios. So Terry Green, who many of you know from the Open Ed world, and Amber Hoy, who now works at the Rebus Foundation, will be talking about some really cool things they've done with student portfolios and Pressbooks. It's a slightly different use case than a lot of people are using with like open textbooks. And so it might be refreshing and expand your sense of the possible. So come out to that. And then the third one is growing institutional OER programs. Is Pressbooks right for you? And it's kind of I think going to be largely informational about how do you grow and establish a successful OER program and how Pressbooks might play a role in that for you. That'll be on Thursday, March 6th. If you're interested in any of them, you can register individually or check the links there. I'll share these slides here in the chat. The last thing to mention is we offer every month free end user training webinars. Previously, we offered 2 every month, Getting Started with Pressbooks and one called Advanced Pressbooks Publishing. We've overhauled these in a pretty major way and are now going to be offering 3 every month. Getting Started with Pressbooks with different topics and goals, Creating Engaging Learning Material with Pressbooks, and a third one called Publish and Distribute Your Book. So I've worked with Mitch on this, and Mitch is the person who generally offers these trainings. Mitch and I will be sharing some of the responsibilities and offering these in the going forward. But the first topic is called Getting Started with Pressbooks. The audience for this is authors or creators who are new to Pressbooks. And what they'll learn is basically everything they need to know to clone or create their first book. How do you create and organize parts of chapters? How do you add content, like start to add things like text boxes, headings, footnotes, glossary terms, media? How do you add collaborators with the appropriate role? And how do you find and use support resources? So it's not going to teach you everything you ever need to know to publish a book, but it teaches you everything you know to get started. And so it's a great introductory training for anyone on your campus who's new to Pressbooks. Invite them to attend, offer it every month, and it's free. The second topic is called Creating Engaging Learning Materials. We envision the audience for this being educators specifically. There's a lot of people who use Pressbooks that aren't teachers, that don't use it for teaching and learning, but this is about teaching and learning. So if you want to transform, say, passive reading into more of an active learning experience, this is the session for you. We'll teach you how to choose and create appropriate interactive quizzes with H5P. We'll show how Pressbooks Results can be used if you're interested, in including connecting to your LMS and viewing results, scores, and details. And we'll also cover how you could make your book more social with social annotation or bringing discussion into the book using the free and open source tool Hypothesis. So that's what that session is going to be about, and we'll offer that every month. If you know of anybody who's curious about Pressbooks results or thinking about it or already uses a lot of H5P, this might be a good webinar for them. The third topic is called Publish and Distribute Your Book. The audience for this, I think, is mainly authors or creators who are nearly finished or are close to finished with their book. This session, you'll learn how you can change the appearance of your book. We'll cover themes and theme settings. We will teach about some common pre-publication checks that people do for quality, whether it's accessibility or broken links or proofreading, that kind of stuff. We'll cover what's really important, how to make sure your book is easier for others to find. For librarians, this is metadata, but for end users, we'll call it book info or discoverability. We try not to confuse them with terminology. And then how you can publish the book onto the web in whole or in part, as well as how you could create and share PDF and or EPUB exports. There'll be a little bit of conversation for people who want to sell their book, but the main focus is publish and distributing. So that's what we're covering. That's what we're offering every month. And the sessions in March and April are listed here. So we've got sessions scheduled for March and April for all three of those topics. Look for each of those to be offered monthly going forward. Any questions for us about webinars? I'm going to stop the recording here, and I am willing to stay if anyone wants to discuss things. If you have anything really important to share or events you want to promote for Open Ed, this is your chance to do so. Thanks for coming.